and welcome into the Cubs Weekly Podcast presented by Wintrust, proud legacy partner of the Chicago Cubs and exclusive home of Cubs Checking. Open online today at wintrust.com/Cubs Weekly. As a reminder, we're available on all podcast platforms, so be sure to rate and subscribe. Tony Andracki here with Andy Martínez, and we have a special podcast for you guys. We're in sunny Arizona right now. You might be able to tell if you're watching the video form on YouTube or on our app, but spring training has kicked off. It's in full gear, but we're actually going to take you back to a time where it was colder, the sun wasn't out quite as often, to Cubs convention. First time in a few years that it happened at all, let alone in person, and we took that opportunity, Andy, to catch up with a bunch of former players, guys who are legends within the fan base for so many different things they did. So we have chats on this podcast with both Jon Lieber, and then first up we have Ted Lilly. So you actually sat down with Ted Lilly. You want to give us a little snapshot preview of what we're going to hear?
Yeah, Ted Lilly was great to talk to. He had some funny stories of him being a teammate with Ryan Dempster. Ryan Dempster called him one of his favorite teammates, so it was great to chat about that from that perspective. And then just he's back with the organization now as a scout, and how he's working towards trying to win another championship for the Chicago Cubs in a different capacity. So that was really interesting to hear. Don't want to spoil too much more, so without further ado, let's take it back to CubsCon with Ted Lilly. Ted Lilly, thank you so much for joining us. I want to start off by asking about your name, Theodore Roosevelt Lilly. Is there a history buff in the family? Like, what's the origin behind your name?
Well, first, thanks for having me on.
Yeah,
it's good to sit down with you. So, yeah, my great grandfather worked for Teddy Roosevelt at one point. This is kind of what I've gotten down from, passed on from my dad, and he was. He was just a great inspiration, for so many people, and he admired him a great deal, and then ended up naming my grandfather Theodore Roosevelt Lilly.
Yeah.
And then kind of kept that going, and my son's actually the fourth. So
the fourth. Hopefully the lineage continues.
I don't know. I definitely won't give him a hard time if he's had enough.
Yeah. Did you research a lot of Teddy Roosevelt growing up, just given the history and thoughts on him?
More so when I got a little older and out of school. Kind of some of the recent history and the impact that he had on our country during a time of need. So a pretty incredible human being. In a lot of ways, so it's a pretty good namesake to have.
Yeah, very good. In 2006, the Cubs had a 90-loss season. You signed with the team after that. What made the Cubs at Chicago a place you wanted to be? Because at that point in your career, I'm assuming a 90-loss team isn't always the most appealing place to go.
Yeah, so going back to that, obviously the city is incredible. The history in terms of just like I think the fan base first is the attraction.
Yeah.
And I definitely wanted to go somewhere and win.
Yeah.
That was a priority, no doubt. And it was a hesitation like that we were going to be able to build a club good enough to have a chance. My conversations with Jim along the way were what other pieces, were we going to add on to try and create depth as well. When we signed Alfonso Soriano, obviously that was a pretty big statement that we were going to be aggressive and try and rebuild the club. And then we brought in that year, we brought in Mark DeRosa, we brought in Jason Marquis. I'm trying to think of some of the other pieces that he put together. Found a way to utilize, various resources. I think they had made a trade too. So anyways, getting to it. So Jim was very confident that we were going to be in the mix. And I also liked how he, there was no guarantees too. Just in the game, you can put the best team on the field statistically, and going forward, you don't know what what your club's going to be able to do. But I think, the straightforwardness that Jim had about him, the way that he communicated, I felt confident in who he was, and what his intentions were. So we, and I think we had a unique group of guys that really wanted to bring this championship to Chicago. We weren't able to do it, but looking back, there's definitely like, other than the fact of not being able to win a championship, I feel pretty grateful to compete with the group that we had.
Yeah, you mentioned a guy, Alfonso Soriano in Atlanta. He had a series where he was red hot, had 3 home runs in a game. Then the next day he's plunked, and then you plunked Edgar Renteria. Was that something? Do you remember that? And is that something that, or how important was it to stick up for your teammates in moments like that?
Yeah, so I do remember it. Alfonso had, I think what had happened is, he was really hot. He'd hit a ball and kind of stood there and enjoyed it for a little bit. And one of the balls didn't go out of the ballpark, and their dugout erupted a little bit, which I understand. Alfonso had a ton of fun playing baseball.
Yeah.
And not really, it wasn't really showy for the sake of like separating himself. He just really enjoyed the game. So, and he wasn't, I guess more than anything, he wasn't doing it to show anyone up. That wasn't his intentions. But anyway, so Tim Hudson, who's a friend, drilled him the next day, I think, or at the end of the game, and then I did feel like there was intent there, and I ended up hitting Edgar Renteria leading off the game, I think, and then got ejected. Is that right?
Yeah.
If I recall.
Was it important for you to be a good team? I don't want necessarily a good teammate, but to stand up for your teammates, to be in that moment?
I think it is.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it is. We're going out there and battling every day, and I think you expect the same from your teammates. But also there are times where we need to hold each other accountable on things that we're doing too. So when there's that kind of trust amongst teammates, I feel like a teammate can come up to me and let me know that there's an issue, there's something they're not comfortable with, and that happened on occasion where someone like Derek Lee, one of the most professional individuals that I ever competed with, would do that in a way that he felt like was best for the club.
Yeah.
And so sometimes it's I think we also kind of need to be held accountable within our own clubhouse.
I want to ask. There's a moment. Carlos Zambrano throws the no-hitter against the Astros in Milwaukee. The next day, you took a no-hitter deep into the game yourself, specifically in that game. When do you start realizing, hey, I've got something going? And does it make it a little tougher to pitch? Does it make it a little more nervy? What's kind of the emotions going through in that situation?
Yeah, I remember that, and actually Giovanni Soto brought that up last night. I think he was saying he would have been the first catcher to catch back-to-back no-hitters.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was just I did realize that I had a no-hitter going, I think, after like five innings. I don't remember how many innings I ended up going, but maybe I gave up a hit in the 7th, something like that. So it was just fun.
Yeah.
It would have been a fun thing to do. And a cool thing for the franchise. And
yeah.
So.
But do you feel any emotions when you're in there? Like, do you maybe subconsciously start doing things differently, or do you try not to think about it too much?
I mean, certainly aware of what's going on, and it's just I don't feel like the thought of or being conscious of having a no-hitter intact really affected it. It's just difficult to execute pitches, and you make a mistake, and guys are going to capitalize. So I wasn't able to finish that one off, but it was still fun.
2009, you get named to the All-Star game in St. Louis. What was that experience like? I mean, you had to know you're going to get some boos regardless of what you do because of given where you're at.
Yeah, so going into that, so kind of a little bit of the history. Yeah, being a Cub for sure. But it may have been 3 weeks before. There was a collision with Yadier Molina at the home plate. I ended up not sliding and kind of. I think that he anticipated a slide, and Yadi had to come out of the game. So I think the fans were upset about that, and there was some feeling that I should have just peeled off.
Yeah. Ryan Dempster, we had him on our podcast not too long ago. He mentioned one of his favorite teammates was you. Was there a prank or anything that you can kind of peel behind the curtains that you pulled on Demp, or do you have a favorite one that you favorite moment with Demp that you messed with him?
Yeah, we had a ton of fun, and just talking about teammates, thinking of some of the guys that that we had during that time that were an important part of the glue and brought people together. I don't know if anyone was better than Demp at at kind of unifying a club. Mark DeRosa was one of the best. We had Henry Blanco during that time. So, but there were some pranks going back and forth. He had gotten me one day pretty good in spring training, and I had during the spring training game, I went into the locker and put some Red Hot on his jeans, his underwear and some jeans, and so I think I've told this story before, but when he felt it on his underwear, he threw his underwear out and just put his jeans on, or shorts, and didn't realize that I had put the Red Hot on that part too. And after the game ended, we were going to go play some golf. I'm already on the freeway, and he passes me with one leg out the window, and the window down, and the AC blasting. So trying to cool off his junk. So
the prank worked.
Yeah. And it's with Ryan, it's pretty risky.
Yeah.
Because he can come over the top with the best of them.
That's pretty awesome. That's a good one, by the way.
Yeah.
I want to ask. You mentioned about wanting to have success with the Cubs and having a successful team in 07. For you, how aware were you, or the guys in the clubhouse aware of the drought or the curse, whatever you want to call it, and how much was that? Hey, we want to be the team that does it. We want to be the team that wins it.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think it was something that we were all, super aware of and motivated by having that opportunity.
Yeah.
We knew that we had the talent to do it. I think maybe there was we'd put more pressure on ourselves than needed, and instead of maybe trying to do too much in October. Sure. I think I kind of looking back on my start, that October start, I felt like I needed to pitch the best game of my life instead of just doing what I do and make pitches and not try and do too much kind of thing. So maybe we all had a little bit of that because we wanted it so bad. But so fortunately, it took us a few more years, but but we were able to get a championship, and the city was able to celebrate a World Series. So
what was that 2016 run like for you? How much did you watch? How much were you either emotionally attached to it or physically attached watching the games? How exciting was that?
Kind of in every way.
Yeah,
kind of in tune with what was going on, throughout the season, and then of course into the playoffs, and it was just. I think the group of guys, obviously talented for sure.
Yeah.
Hungry, focused, a great diversional leadership on that club. It was a pretty special group. So.
And now you're a member of the organization. Just to be back with the organization, what does that mean to you, and how special is it to try and be a foundational piece in some way of trying to win another championship?
Yeah, I feel first thing is just to still be connected to this organization. I feel super grateful. It's something I think about constantly, about how lucky I am. And I'm working in the scouting department now. We have a tremendous group of people that are very hungry, want to contribute, work really hard, spend the extra time, always thinking about turning everything over, trying to find out ways that we can be a little bit better. Those guys on the ground compete. To be a part of a group that, and I guess for me, it really does still feel like it kind of, it fills something that I need, which is a little bit of competition factor in my life. And yeah, we're out there trying to find some future Cubs that help us win October baseball games.
Ted, thank you so much for the time. I appreciate it, and it was a blast to have you on.
Okay, absolutely. You're welcome. Thanks. Thank you.
Get your Wintrust exclusive debit card. Get your Cubs card.
Ooh, I'll take one. How much?
Actually, they pay you $300. You heard right. Get a $300 bonus when you open a Cubs checking account with Wintrust. Enjoy all perks and purchase with pride every time with your Wintrust Cubs debit card.
$300?
Wait, what? That guy's getting $300?
$300? Get your exclusive card at wintrust.com/Cubs. Only $100 required to open. No monthly minimum balance and no monthly maintenance fees. Member FDIC and equal housing lender.
That was a great conversation with Ted Lilly back at Cubs convention, and hearing now what he's doing with the organization, trying to win a ring. You caught up with another Cubs legend, Jon Lieber. What was that kind of conversation like, and what was it like talking to him?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was a guy that, as a young baseball fan growing up in Chicago, he was a guy I saw pitch a ton, and it was always really cool to see him go out and shove for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 innings. Definitely kind of a throwback in that regard, and also one of the more recent 20-game winners in Cubs history as well. So it was really cool. He talked about one of his favorite games and maybe the best game he's ever pitched, included several rain delays and pitching through all of that. He talked about his All-Star game appearance, and then coming back to the team in his second stint in 2008, he was a reliever. I feel like a lot of people forgot, I kind of forgot until I was researching, that he was a part of that team as a reliever. Talked about playing for Lou Piniella, what it was like as a part of that team. So it was a really fun chat with Jon Lieber, a guy that I grew up watching a ton of. All right, we're here with Jon Lieber now at the Cubs convention. And John, how has everything gone for you here? What's it like being back at the convention and seeing fans again?
Oh, I mean, this is just great. It's just it's an honor to always get invited back to these events and to see familiar faces that I've been around for the past few years and the fans and just catching up on some things we've gone through the year and really with ex-teammates talking about the old times. So it's always a pleasure to be around in this environment.
What number convention is this for you? How many have you been to? Do you know?
Oh, even while I was playing,
yeah.
Probably I would say about 12 or 13.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's it like then? I know your son's here. Like, what's it like taking him and being a part of this as a father as well?
Well, it's really nice because the kids remember when I was playing and they were younger. This was the one event they really enjoyed out of all the teams that I've been with, that they always love to come back and be a part of. And I can't say enough how much the Cubs have treated my family, my kids, and how the fans have been great towards my family. It's just really nice to see, and like I said, they really enjoy it and they look forward to this time of year.
What have you been up to since your playing career has ended? Like, how do you kind of spend most of your time? Is it as a father, or have you dabbled in coaching, or like what's your post-career look like?
It's really slowed down quite a bit. I'm not involved with the game as much as maybe I'd like to be, but my kids they've gotten much older. I've got 2 that are in college, one that's about ready to start driving, one that's about ready to get married. So that aspect of their life is moving forward. But for me, it's just finding little things around. I'm down in Mobile, Alabama, and just dabbling around with kids, maybe helping them one-on-one in sessions and so forth. I've bought some real estate years ago. I've been dealing with that, and but I think the next phase of my life here, I'm kind of maybe looking to maybe get back into it a little bit more.
Okay.
And since the kids have kind of grown up and moved on.
What would you like to get into? Would it be more coaching, or have you always had an eye at something like that?
Not really. I think I like the flexibility if I could, because I have family back in Iowa, and I like to be able to get up and go see them if I have to. My dad's getting up there in age, and so if there was an opportunity to where something was flexible and I could come in and do something for a few weeks or a month, and then have a month off or whatever, I think that would be great. I don't know if that is realistic, but it's just maybe put it in somebody's ear.
Gotcha. Okay. So how much baseball do you watch now, and how have you consumed the game as a fan different than when you were pitching? Like how different, I guess, is it? Because now we're talking about no shifts. Obviously, in the time since you were done pitching, like their shifting started, and now we're not shifting again. We're back to when you were pitching. Like, how different is this game, and how do you view it as a consumer?
How much time do we got to talk about this?
I have plenty of time. Go for it. Yeah.
No, it's obviously the game has changed quite a bit since my last playing days. I'm not saying it's terrible. It's just there's a few things I'm not a big fan on. I think the analytical side, I think there's some good things about it. I think it's overused, in my opinion. I think a lot of it has to do with being in situations and being a part of that situation, really understanding what's going on in the batter's box or on the pitcher's mound. I don't think you can really concentrate on numbers, on how you're going to get somebody out, if that makes sense. That's one part. I have a hard time watching the game. I feel like as a pitcher, there's not much pitching going on, if that makes sense. I feel like it's trying to strike everybody out. I was more of a pitcher that pitched to contact and really tried to get my teammates on and off the field, as quick as possible and not try to overpower everybody. But I understand the fans really love that. There's a big part of the game for the fans in that, and, numbers or whatever. But I keep up with the moves and who's going where and what's happening on each team and stuff like that. But that's basically about it.
So, touch on your career a bit. When you joined the Cubs, after the '98 season, going into '99, like, how much did you know, I guess, about the franchise and Wrigley Field and this fan base, and how did reality kind of meet your expectations?
Well, there was as a visiting player and a kid growing up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, which is a lot of Cubs fans from there.
Sure,
I had a good friend of mine, Paul Lane, who was a huge Cubs fan. We'd watch games as teenagers growing up, and I didn't really follow baseball. I think I followed my older brother in his footsteps, what team he was following. But when I came over here as a visiting player, it was intimidating to play in this ballpark because all you heard about was how small it was, the wind's blowing out, so forth. But when I came over here and became a part of the team, man, I really appreciate it. The history behind it, the fan base, which was really awesome. And I just kind of really grasped it. And believe it or not, I love the day games. I was a huge day game guy.
We've heard that from a lot of people this weekend, actually, just how much they love the day games.
The day games, I don't know what it is. I know position players probably don't like it as much, but, as a pitcher, it was just something about the day games. And I really loved it. I think I pitched well in the day games and, just enjoyed my time while I was here.
And then in 2000, you were the opening day starter when the Cubs went to Japan. And what was that experience like to, one, play there in Japan and kind of open the season like that, but then two, to be the opening day starter for the team during that experience?
Awesome. Something I'll never forget. So honored to be a part of that. To be the first team to travel outside the United States and have a game that actually counts, and to be on that winning team that day. It's just something I'll never forget, and the kids, I think they look back on it now and they think it's kind of cool. And I may never make it to the Hall of Fame. Well, I know I won't, but I know I'll have a piece of history there because people have told me, Mike Hampton's ball's there, my ball's there, and that's just something that they can never take away, from myself or this organization. So.
And then the following season, you won 20 games. Is that something you're most proud of in your career? Or is it maybe starting in Japan? Or like what kind of stands out, and what did winning 20 games kind of mean to you the most?
It really meant a lot. I was I think I was on the cusp of doing great things in the game at that time. And I'll never forget, I was challenged by my pitching coach, Oscar Acosta. Through my career, I've had coaches come up to me and challenge me in situations because they see more things that I can accomplish or do out there on the ball field. And so I took them up on that challenge and, had a breakout season. But to be honest with you, it really had nothing to do with me. It was with my teammates. I really give all the credit to them. Without them making the play or without them driving in the run, I'm not in those situations. Or, Joe Girardi was a big presence for me that year behind the dish. He really guided me through that season to have his presence back there. And without those guys, I don't think that season ever happens.
Can you explain a little bit about what a catcher like Girardi, how they can impact the pitcher, and how important that pitcher-catcher dynamic is? Because I think some fans maybe think that some of that is overblown, or they hear the personal catcher thing, right? Like here, John Lester, David Ross had that. But how important is it to have that pitcher-catcher relationship from a pitcher's perspective?
It's huge. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'd rather have a catcher that hits 220, maybe 10 home runs a year, but can call an outstanding game. That doesn't go to say all the catchers I've had throughout my career, they're all terrible or whatever. They're all, good players, great players, whatever. But I want the guy that's into the game, understands what's going on back there, can relate to every pitcher that comes in. And I've had those guys throughout the years. Girardi, John Flaherty, Todd Pratt. Lance. What's his name? Pitcher. It was catcher for the Tigers back in the 70s. He was my first catcher. Lance Parrish.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's a throwback.
Yeah.
He was my first catcher when I made it to the big leagues. I mean, guys like that had a huge impact on my career. So I think those guys can really help a pitching staff and can make it much better.
What do you consider the best game you ever pitched? It doesn't have to be in a Cubs uniform, but I know you had a 78-pitch complete game with the Cubs.
Yeah.
Was it that one?
It was that one.
It was?
It really was. There was a lot of things that went on in that game. The 2 rain delays. I think we had an hour-and-a-half rain delay to start off the game, so we were pushed back. And then after 4 innings, I think we had another hour rain delay. And, as Glendon Rush is, we had another hour rain delay, and and then to be able to come back out and finish the game like that, it was just and under 2 hours too. It was unbelievable. So
how'd you stay ready during all those game delays?
Well,
rain delays, rather.
It's what's funny is you get to the 4th inning, you think normally you'd have 40, 60 pitches or whatever, and I knew I didn't have a lot of pitches up to that point, and Oscar came up to me. I was staying warm on the bike, and he said, "How do you feel?" I said, "I feel great." And I really did. He goes, "Okay." He goes, "You only got 20 pitches after 4 innings," and I that was just mind-boggling to me. I said, "Yeah, I feel like I just warmed up basically." So he just said, "Just stay loose. You're going to go back out." And, like I said, my arm wasn't affected by that whatsoever, and was able to just kind of pick up where I left off.
All right, so put in perspective, 20 pitches. How many pitches did you usually have to warm up for a start? Like in the 30 range, right? Maybe?
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah, I mean, for me, it didn't. I didn't warm up for a long period of time. 20 to 30 pitches maybe.
So you were just warming up essentially by the time the rain delay happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense. Where does the All-Star game appearance, what was that like, and getting to face a guy like Jeter? And I think Jeter actually might have homered off of you. Not to bring that up.
Jeter, Maglio, back-to-back. The whole experience was something I'll never forget. That's another part of my career I really cherish. Unfortunately, my kids, I don't think Justin was around at that time, but I wish they were a little bit older to really appreciate it. But, man, what an experience. It was awesome. I had my whole family out there. But, when I came out there and I gave up the home run to Jeter, and then Maglio hit another one off me, and I had nobody out, and I'm just I'll never forget turning around going, oh my God, just please get me an out or something. Don't embarrass yourself out here. But, it was a great time, just something I'll never forget.
What did it mean to you to be named to the All-Star team, and just that validation that everything you've been doing in your career, you were recognized by your peers and by the league as one of the best pitchers in the game?
Well, it means a lot. I think I had a little bit of help along the way, people mentioning some things. I think Don Baylor, probably had some input, I think, as well as Oscar, Joe Girardi, I'm sure. I'm sure they talk about it to certain people, and, I wouldn't be in certain situations or in those things without the help of those people that were behind me.
Then fast forwarding a bit, you were actually rejoined the Cubs then and were on the 2008 team as a reliever. What was that experience like from your perspective? You know, obviously the Cubs were one of the best teams in the league that year. And, you know, we talked a little bit about Mike Fontenot earlier, just about like how good that team was going to the playoffs and the Class of National League and everything. Just what was it like for you to be a part of a team like that in kind of your second stint there with the team?
It was great. Yeah, I remember talking to Jim Henry in the offseason, hopefully having a chance. I was just coming off of foot surgery. So I was out for the last 2 months of the season in 2007 and talking to Jim, and he was able to bring me back, and which, you know, I really wanted to come back to Chicago that year. I knew my career was winding down, and that possibly could be my last year in the big leagues. And so when I had that opportunity to come back and be around those guys, I'm not just saying this, that was probably the best, the most fun I've had in the big leagues was playing with those guys that year. It was just, I don't know, it was just an extraordinary group. I mean, everybody. I mean, it was a close-knit group. I mean, I played on some close-knit teams. The 97 Pirates, we were pretty close. The Yankees in 04, we were pretty close group. But just something about that team. I don't know what it was, but you know, I had you know, a lot of fun that year.
I've asked some players this too, the idea of chemistry and how it translates to winning on the field. What's your thought on that, and how does chemistry matter in the clubhouse and then translate into wins on the field? How do you guys get that to work out, I guess?
Well, it's huge. I've always believed that, you know, that's the part of the game that not everybody sees is really what goes on in the clubhouse. And, you know, if you have one bad guy or two bad guys or whatever, it can really distract a team or bring a team down. You know, so to have that chemistry and a manager, I've always believed that having a manager that's a good communicator and be able to talk to the players, because you never know what's going on in that player's life at home. And if they bring that to the field, that's going to be a huge distraction. And you got to have everybody on their A game, because it's a lot of games during the year. And if you don't have everybody on the same page, you know, bad things can start happening. So chemistry is a huge part. You know, I've always believed the best manager I've been around that was a very, very good communicator with his team was Charlie Manuel. You know, I don't think Charlie gets a lot of credit, but Charlie was an exceptional manager, and all that boils down to is being able to communicate with his players and getting to know them and, you know, finding out what's going on. So,
one more for you before I let you go. What was your perspective watching the Cubs win it all in 2016, and what kind of emotions did you feel? Because, like we said, obviously being here in 2008 as a team that maybe seemed destined for it, the first stint with the team, like understanding what a championship means to this city, this fan base, seeing it finally come to fruition. What was that like for you?
I mean, it was really awesome. I mean, you may think this is kind of weird, but I was excited for the team, you know, obviously, but I was more excited for the fans.
Okay.
Because the years I played here, you know, the biggest compliment I've ever gotten was from the fan base or from people that worked at the stadium was saying, you know, hey, John, you know, we really appreciate your time spending with us and talking to us and how humble you are. And, you know, I'm not tooting my own horn or anything, but I just tried to treat everybody like myself, you know. And so when they won it, I thought about all those fans that were yearning for that championship and how much it meant to them. You know, all the years that either their grandfather didn't stick around to be able to see them win it, or their mom or dad, or you know somebody like that. And that's what I got excited about, was just for the whole city of Chicago and, you know, the Cubs fan, you know, nationwide.
Well, John, thanks so much for stopping by.
Oh, absolutely.
I really appreciate the chat.
You bet. Thank you so much.
All right, it was great catching up with Jon Lieber, and Andy, you got a chance to catch up with Ted Lilly. So really fun podcast overall to talk about some throwback pitchers in Cubs history. We'll have a couple more interviews from Cubs Convention still. We have Miguel Montero, Darwin Barney, a couple of guys who are famous from the fan base for a multitude of reasons throughout Cubs lore here. So stay tuned for that on the Cubs Weekly podcast, as well as other spring training coverage. All right, that'll do it for this edition of the Cubs Weekly podcast. As always, we are presented by Wintrust. Don't forget to download and subscribe to the pod wherever you get your podcast, and check us out in video form on the Marquee Sports Network app and YouTube.